Meet Asada Shino, also known as Shinon in the VR world of Gun Gale Online. Shinon is the deuteragonist of the Phantom Bullet arc, the third main arc of the Sword Art Online series, where she also made her debut. Shino lost her father in a car accident merely a year after she was born. This event traumatized her mother, so much so that Shino had to rely on her grandparents for her upbringing, which cultivated the girl's resolve to one day become strong enough to protect her mother. Her chance to do so would come in the year 2020 at a tender age of 11, when her mother found herself at gunpoint during a robbery at a post office. Rushing in to protect her mother, Shino managed to take possession of the robber's gun, which led to her pulling the trigger in the heat of the moment and thus killing the man. The man's death at her hands traumatized the little girl to such an extent that she would be plagued by intense visceral reactions of revulsion for years to come at the mere sight of a gun. To make matters worse, the incident at the post office resulted in Shino being ostracized by her peers throughout elementary and middle school. To escape the unwanted attention, Shino expressed a desire to move far outside her hometown. As Shino's grandparents forbade her from working immediately after finishing middle school, the girl settled for entering a fairly well-known high school in the Tokyo neighborhood, where she had used to live with her parents. In June 2025, Shino met a boy named Kyoji while reading a book about guns in a local library there. This led to her being introduced to Gun Gale Online by the boy when she heard that the gun she had used in the post office incident was present in the game. Having created an avatar called Shinon for Gun Gale Online, Shino became very invested in the game as her way of attempting to overcome her trauma with guns. If she were to prove her strength to herself within the game, she hoped it would allow her to free herself from the chains of the past. In pursuit of becoming the strongest, she turned her attention to the ultimate competition in Gun Gale Online, the Bullet of Bullets tournament. However, Shinon would soon learn that she was not the only one struggling with a dark trauma from the past. On her way to the registration, she came across a feminine-looking player named Kirito asking her for directions. Assuming the player was a girl who had just started playing the game and sympathizing with the player's plight as one of the few girls in a game like GGO, Shinon found herself helping them get started on the game by purchasing some equipment. Since the new player was also interested in the tournament, Shinon accompanied them to the governor's office for the registration. Upon finishing the process, she led Kirito to the changing room to equip their gear in preparation for the preliminary fights, only to discover that the feminine player was actually a guy after she had already begun undressing herself. Irritated at herself for lowering her guard, the girl had Kirito promise her that he would survive until the final match in the preliminary rounds of their block, where she would defeat him on the battlefield. However, Shinon found Kirito in the waiting room inexplicably shaken to the core following their respective first preliminary round. It was as if the boy had seen a ghost from the past. A ghost that would haunt them throughout the entire Bullet of Bullets tournament, bringing out their individual traumas back to the surface. Deathgun was among their adversaries. For more information on Asada Shino and Sword Art Online, make sure to visit the Sword Art Online Wikia. Check out these other SAO Wikia features that we know you'll find useful, and don't forget to follow us at SAO_Wiki on Twitter for the latest news on the series.